Welcome back to the Purpose Over Profits podcast. My name is Jeremy Powers, owner of Powers Insurance Experts.
And I'm Jim Floyd, owner of Ascent Total Performance.
That's it. Don't you love that smile, guys? Video is the way to go.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about the importance of communication.
That's right.
It is something I'm not good at all. So I was like, we need to talk about this. We need to air it out.
If you look at our notes, we have the most notes ever on this episode, so we can properly communicate with you the importance of communication.
Yeah. So I think, starting that out, we were talking beforehand of different scenarios that we've had, different challenges we've had. So we thought it'd be a really good thing of really trying to dive into this topic.
Yeah.
Still quick episode, 20 minutes or so, but still let's get into it.
Yeah,
all right,
3 hours later.
Yeah. All right. So I think the first thing we need to do is just talk about just the importance of having effective communication. So, when we go through the entrepreneurial journey, we have starting out by ourselves. The only person we got to communicate with is ourselves.
That's right.
We should know what we're doing, right?
That's a scary place if you live inside of it. There's like 4 people up here, it's scary.
But then it becomes a compounding thing when we start having staff.
Yeah.
And how do we effectively communicate, and the importance of being effective with those things as we add staff?
Oh man, it's so vital as you go from being a one-man show and not having to think about these things to all of a sudden, here comes some complexity. Here comes some things that can easily derail you because you are trying to say one thing. We all have relationships in our lives, or that text message that you send and you don't mean what you thought it was it was taken as. It takes me back to a really funny, I've only watched a few of them, but it's like, I think it's called like Key and Peele or something like that. There's funny comedians, but they have this, it's like a text communication where they're like, hey, I'll see you at the bar tonight. They're going out for drinks, but the one guy's like taking the text completely wrong. Like, oh, I guess you want to do this. And the other guy's just like happily texting. It shows them, separated from each other. Yeah. And then all of a sudden one of them's at the bar and he buys the other guy a drink. The other guy's there with a baseball bat ready to beat him down. Yeah. Man, communication, it's a big deal.
Big thing. Yes.
It's a big deal. So pause the video, go watch that, and then come back to us.
So I think about different scenarios that I've had in my career. So I'm very much known as So actually, my wife and I had a conversation about your strength in communication, and I'll freely admit that.
You said that to her?
No. I'm just
joking.
There's communication.
Totally just playing. I know what was said the other way around.
But I think that's the trap that we can all get into. Is we know what we want, and we know how to do things, and we know how to do it the way that we want it done. Then the challenge with that is communicating that to someone else and having them meet those expectations and do it the way. And especially if we're struggling a little bit with how we're conveying that and all that, that's a recipe for things just not being how you want them. Then just get irritated, all that kind of stuff too. And so figuring out how to effectively communicate with other people.
I think a struggle of mine. Yeah, I think a struggle of mine is over communicating the hard things, but vastly under communicating what I see as easy.
Yeah.
And just because I see it as easy doesn't mean that everyone does. Sometimes it's only easy because I've done this for 13 years.
I find myself doing that. Like I've think back to one of our recent staff meetings where I always do some kind of a clinical component where we're practicing something like that. And this is something I think back on now I really shouldn't have done. I had one of our older staff members leading the meeting and doing a great job with all that kind of stuff. And then they just asked me, it was like, Jim, is there anything you want to add? And so I'm like, all right, this is clinical mode. I've been doing this for so long. I know exactly what to do. This is easy. So I just jump up. This is what I do. Bump, bump, bump. This is it. This is what it's got. This is what it is. And that's it. And so in my mind, I'm like, well, this just makes sense to me. But then I think about our staff who don't have the same experiences as me and all, and looking at it maybe with a different lens. It was like, what did I just do? Was I helpful, or was it more of like, oh, this is just how you do it. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it. So I have to make sure I check myself on just not going right into that mode with things.
It's part of that complexity, because the truth is you're speaking to a group of 20 people, and what you say is going to hit most of them differently.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about before this, one of our favorite things to talk about when understanding people is the DISC assessment.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to go through really the DISC really quick and just say like what they are, and then we'll kind of elaborate on each one. Just because I think a lot of folks don't realize, much like we did it before we got into this, is that you really have to hit people differently because everyone's built a little bit different.
Definitely. So with so DISC assessment, so that's not the end all be all. There are tons of personality assessments out there. And it's really going to be, I think it's a good thing to take multiple things. So you get a good, and you figure out which one really best describes you. So DISC is pretty standard. So I think it's something we can run through real quick. So DISC is an acronym, stands for, so the D is dominant. It can be described as decisive, and depending on what test you take with it. I is influence or interactive. You've got steadiness for the S, stabilizing personality, and then you've got for the C, a conscientiousness or even a cautious. And so understanding yourself and what you tend to go to, but then also like really need your staff doing these as well. So you understand, how am I going to be the most effective in communicating what we need to get done to this particular person? Because someone that's going to be more of a dominant, decisive is going to approach things a whole different way than someone who's maybe on that conscientiousness, cautious.
That's right.
Thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's, you know, when you're speaking to folks, everyone is going to handle pressure differently.
Yep.
Everyone is going to handle accolades and, you know, the need to be noticed. And all of those things. And so, you know, for me, influence, I'm a high I. Like in my most recent time taking the DISC assessment test, you know, influence for me is a 97.
Yeah.
You know, because it's, you know, very outgoing, you know, and like talkative, obviously. This is who we are. But, you know, C for me, which is processes, which is organizational skills, scored a whopping 3.
Yeah.
You know? You know, but you hire for it. So the thing is, as an I, if you put me as your admin role in your office and you're trying to communicate to me all this, you know, wah, 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 I'm off in a different world. We're very quickly going to be adversaries and not each other's biggest champions. So communication becomes 3 different languages at one time when you're not designed for the role, you know, which is a whole different talk. But when communication has to happen, it's just best to know how does that person most likely to be communicated. And I'm not saying that this is the perfect thing. Like kind of like you said, people are going to have to grow and be willing to stretch and be a little bit different. No, nothing is perfect. But I think it's the importance of you understanding yourself, understanding that everyone doesn't think like you. That just because you learn a way, like I'm an Audible book guy. I love hearing it. I love seeing it. I love hands-on. And so some people are like, I've got to read it. I've got to be able to put my finger on the words and go across and take it in that way and write some notes. Everyone's different, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, everybody's going to process information differently. So for me, I am a very high D. So it was like 98%. And then the rest of them were pretty steady, like 20, 25% across. And so for me, so I have to really check myself because then it's like, all right, so we got to do this. Let's just do it. Like what else do we need to do? Let's just do it. You know, of course, we're going to think about it and stuff like that. But it's ultimately, I find myself getting annoyed of, well, why didn't we just do it? Like, what's the hang up and all that stuff. And so I really have to make sure that I am being very aware of everybody's not going to process that the same way that I am. And everybody's not going to be like, okay, well, you know, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to do this. We might need to examine things a little bit more. Now I'm very methodical and all that kind of stuff. So maybe not like totally like super decisive, dominant kind of thing, but that's what I'm going to lean more towards in a situation where it's low stress and a high stress as well. Now I'm always going to do my homework, but let's make a decision. Let's do this instead of just waffling. And so I have to really make sure that when I'm having a conversation with someone that I'm not conveying annoyance or irritation if it hadn't been done, because I need to take into account how are they responding to this and how are they interpreting?
Well, it's funny
These things
because,
too.
my pastor, I'll pick on you, Jim. I had him take the test. And he got a DIC. I was like, yeah, because you're a dick sometimes. You know what I mean? I'm like, it literally is right there. It's so funny because, sometimes without even realizing it, in that domineering, if that's your top thing, it's like you don't mean it to be that way, but it's your way or the highway.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But it's not it's just who you are. I think understanding that, but I always pick on them all the time that we get into like a little bit like, here comes that DIC coming out. You know what I mean? Like you're bringing out that disc assessment over here. And so it's, but I love them to death, but I think that it's been so great for me, the people that you spend your time with, the people that, because I'm pastoral care support team and, and we do life together, and so I think it's really cool. You can't just walk up to everyone you love and say, hey, will you take this test for me? You know what I mean? But I think it's really neat. People that are at your table.
Yeah.
I think that for those 3 or 4 people at your table, it's $50, guys, for all of you to take this test and to understand it. If you're putting yourself in a position of people that you want to grow with, your team, for example, your office, if you have not done this within your organization, go ask the leader of your organization to please do this.
Definitely.
And if you're the leader of your organization, what better team building exercise than for you to be able to take this homework to your house, learn how your people are, and then watch it work. So we won't spend all of our time on that, but this is the nugget alert. This is such an opportunity. And man, it really I think it helps friendships flourish.
Yeah.
It really does. Or it helps leadership flourish because you've got an opportunity. It's almost like a cheat code.
Yeah. I think it's been a really impactful thing for our organization. And a real quick story related to that is we have an executive team in our organization, and they're awesome. They do a great job. But what we found was there was some lacking in clarity of communication, and it's mostly coming from me. And so we all did the DISC assessments, and that also opened up avenues to discuss these things too. So we had a half-day meeting probably 3 or 4 weeks ago where we were pretty open about when you say, and so it was something like it was a very constructive conversation, but it was also something where they were asking me, it was like, when you say that we want to do this, are you saying that do it now, or are you saying that, this is maybe something we want to look at? So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'm saying this, why aren't we doing it?
Yeah.
But that wasn't being effectively communicated, and doing those personality assessments opened up the opportunity for having those conversations so we get more clarity with those things too. So that's realized, so I need to do a little bit better job at directing and being decisive and also communicating where we need to go.
Yeah. And
then recognizing the different personalities that we're going to be communicating with and how is that going to be most effectively communicated.
100%. I think you're absolutely right in that. And it's crazy how you can be in a position where you didn't know that. But I think that's one of the things I can say I respect about your organization is that you create that transparency to where people can actually communicate. Not just, well, what does my leader want to hear? Because like you just said, you're high D.
Yeah.
Typically that's not something that happens in this organization.
Yeah.
When I say do it, you say, okay, when, where, how. But to be able to take that in, we talked about the exit interview a few episodes ago. We talked about all the time about how important your team is. If people can't communicate to you and it's just you telling them and you can't hear and you're not learning, how are you going to be able to be the leader that the organization needs?
Oh yeah. And so, and I, with that, so I've definitely made some big mistakes with that too. And so I get excited. Like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Then it ends up being an hour of me talking and like going off on all kinds of different things and me like just standing on tables and getting excited about stuff and all that. And that's all fine. But some of the feedback I got from my staff was that we talk about all these things and then like, it's like all these things going on and we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And then we don't know what's going on because it's like, so I have these things in my mind and I'm like getting excited about it and all that kind of stuff. But then it ends up being causes more just, uncomfortable is not the right word, but just not some more uncertainty about what we're doing and where we're going and all that kind of stuff because I wasn't very clear about like, these are the really focused things that we need to do. And so that was something where I had to make sure that I was introspective with that and was like, okay, well, I need to do a little bit better about not just taking over a meeting and making sure that I'm taking into account. I always take into account others' opinions and all that stuff, and want to give everybody an opportunity to speak. But also, I would see myself too of, well, this is the answer. Let's just go do this.
Yeah.
And so, part of my evolution as a leader and being a better leader is I need to make sure that I'm giving voice to everyone else and allowing that to happen too. And I can't do that if I'm just going straight to decisive dominance, all that kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And I think that there's also when to not communicate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is something for me, because when I have an idea, man, I want the world to know.
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, hey, has that happened yet? Or when is that going to happen? And,
Yeah.
you know, it's like my dream. I'll just be transparent. My dream for my office is to have what's called an A team and a B team for our salaried staff. I want to create the 4-day work week in our agency. I understand the value of time. And we might not be this Goliath agency where we can just pay you all this money. But the truth is, everyone just doesn't care about money anymore.
No.
There's so much more. But my dream is that we would have an A team that works Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We'd have a B team that works Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And so A team's 3-day weekend. B team has a 3-day weekend. They don't overlap.
Yeah.
But we have this, and so then you bring that up like, this is my dream, and then it's like kind of like, oh, when's that? When is this? Could this happen yesterday? You know, or there's things of like, hey, we're really going to work on getting this carrier appointment, or hey, this is happening, or hey, I really wish blank would do this way instead of that way. It's like, oh, I shouldn't have. It's like, be careful who you communicate to.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Have those people that you can bounce stuff off of.
Yeah.
But before you go out and tell your team that you're changing the world, make sure that you have the detailed plan of action and that it's actually going to happen.
Yes.
Because what I'm always fearful of, and this is something I'm being very vulnerable, is that there's been a time or two that something I wanted to happen quickly didn't. And all of a sudden, am I seen as a liar, or am I seen as someone who can't finish the job? You know,
and so definitely. Yeah.
We're always on this vastly ever-changing journey of growth. And that is something for me, is it's like, Jeremy, you like to talk, but sometimes you got to maybe have that person, but don't just tell everyone what your dreams and plans are, because your competition's listening too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think you nailed it with, you need to, so whenever we are like, we get excited about different things, or different things that we want to implement and all that stuff, and start talking about it. So those are things that need to be done. And, but the risk with that is, so we're wanting to do all these things, but then they don't get followed up upon. And then, honestly, what's that's going to create within your staff is anxiety about not knowing what's going on, or, you know, we talked about this, but I hadn't heard anything else about it. Is this happening or not? All those kind of things. And so it's just, sometimes, we do need to hold some stuff in. You're excited about it, get it fleshed out a little bit more.
That's right.
Moving it.
I think that's it. And so just to recap, in this situation, how do you communicate?
Yeah.
You know, how do you communicate utilizing utilizing an assessment like the DISC assessment?
Yep.
And then it's ultimately just, when should you not? When should you take a step back and say, hey, until this is fully dialed in and ready to go, I'm not gonna talk about it. And so we truly hope that you find this helpful with communication and with effectively communicating with your staff, your team, and those that you love.
Yeah, such a key component to being successful and being happy in your life too. So we're gonna in tradition that I started on the previous episode of asking a really stupid question. So, what's your favorite mode of communication?
I think my favorite mode of communication is just right in front of each other. I want to be able to read the body language.
Yeah.
I want to be able to see, like, because for me, texting scares me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm old school when it comes to communication. I like getting together, and if not, weirdly enough, I want to Zoom.
Yeah.
I want to be in a position where I can I can see more. Words alone don't answer the question for me.
Yeah.
It's a full package deal. I'm assessing everything.
Yeah, dude, we are so polar opposites because I appreciate and enjoy the connection of having a face-to-face conversation, all that stuff. But when it comes down to it, if I can text somebody, that's what I'm doing.
That's it. Well, I see those from now on. I'm gonna start paying attention to those smoke signals I see coming from your office. I think you're trying to communicate. You say, "Let me." What's the least way that I can? You know, it's gonna take them a while to get back to me. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully, we'll be able to put some disc assessment material in the show notes where you guys can go and take this. But I would tell you from everything we've said here, simply go and take the test for yourself. Don't feel like you have to answer it. There's no right or wrong answers. Be true to who you are and just watch the results you see and how it wows you. Bring this to your team. Bring this to the leaders in your organization and just watch what comes from that simple action.
Yeah.
Have a great one, guys.